The OREI UHD18-IPC230-K HDMI extender and splitter kit was engineered to make it incredibly easy for you to share a single HDMI media source with 8 remote locations simultaneously that are located up to 230 feet away from the primary site in full 4K ultra high definition resolution over a single Cat6 or Cat7 cable to each of these locations. Each one of the remote receivers also features audio extraction capabilities, which will strip the audio from the media stream being sent there and allow you to pass that audio along to a soundbar or an external amplifier for theater quality sound. You also have the choice of using ARC audio or the SPDIF optical to make that connection. The kit also includes infrared blaster kits for each of the remote locations that will essentially collect up the remote control signals from those locations and send those back digitally over the LAN connection to the primary site to be rebroadcast, giving you complete remote control over the content you're watching. Now, as part of this overview, I'd like to start with an unboxing of the product just to show you everything that's included with the kit, and then I'll take a closer look at the transmitter and the receiver modules. I'll explain the connections and indicators. I'll list the features and functions the product provides, and I'll also do a short demonstration to show you just how simple this kit will be to use with your own equipment. So let's get started with the unboxing. When you open up the box, you'll find the transmitter module. You'll find 8 identical receiver modules. Each of the receiver modules has its own power supply. You'll simply plug that into a wall outlet, plug the barrel connector on the other end of the cable into the remote receiver, and that's all the power you'll need to operate that product. You'll also find a larger power supply for the transmitter. Same thing here, plug it into the wall, plug the barrel connector in the back, and that's all the power you'll need for the transmitter. You'll find a set of brackets for each of the remote receivers that you can use to mount them up off the ground and out of the way. You'll also find a bracketing kit for the transmitter to do the same thing, and a connection block for the RS-232 connection between this and a computer if you'd like to remotely control the unit. You'll also find a full instruction manual right here that lists connection diagrams, specifications, EDID switch settings, and other really important information you'll need to understand about the product to use it correctly. Now, if you stay tuned next, I'll take a closer look at the transmitter and the receiver modules and explain how you connect them to your own equipment. I'll list the features and functions, and then I'll come back and do the demonstration. Included with the kit is a larger transmitter module and 8 identical smaller receiver modules. Both of these feature full metal enclosures, which make them incredibly durable, and also it helps to minimize outside interference from causing any issues with the electronics inside. I'll start with the transmitter module. You'll notice on the top surface and on the side surface there are fins that are actually built right into the surface of the product, and those are designed to keep the electronics inside at a very comfortable temperature by radiating heat during operation. On the front of the unit, starting on the left, you'll find a power indicator. The minute you add power to the unit, it starts an internal power on self-test where it's checking all the electronics just to make sure everything's working okay. Once it passes that test, it'll light that LED, letting you know the unit's fully functional. To the right of that is a bank of EDID switches, and these can be used to adjust the frame rate and resolution so you can get the perfect picture and audio downstream to your remote locations. It's nice that that's included, and that's fully explained in the manual because that gives you complete control over the content being transmitted. To the right of that are 2 infrared blaster ports, infrared in and infrared out. In the case of the transmitter, you'll plug in the module to the infrared out because you're receiving the signals from those remote locations, and that module will actually rebroadcast those to control the content here. On either side, you'll also find holes that you can use for the bracketing kit that's included to mount this up off the ground and out of the way. On the rear of the unit, you'll find a reset button on the left-hand side. That can be used to reset the module if needed. You'll hold that in for a couple of seconds. It'll go through a reboot and come back online. To the right of that are 8 LAN ports. Each of these connect to a remote receiver somewhere else up to 230 feet away. That's a standard Cat6 or Cat7 cable. You'll plug one end in here, the other end into the receiver for that location. To the right of that are 2 full-sized HDMI ports, HDMI in and loop out. The HDMI in port connects to whatever media device you'd like to share the content from with your remote locations, standard HDMI cable. To the left of that is the loop out port. This product provides local loopback functionality, which allows you to enjoy the content here while you're simultaneously broadcasting it to your remote locations. And to use that, you'll just plug an HDMI cable in here to a local monitor so you can enjoy that content. To the right of that is a block of RS-232 connections. You can control this to a certain extent from a computer, so you can actually connect it up with that RS-232 block to your computer to send out those control signals. To the right of that is a DC power port. You'll use the larger power supply, plug that into the wall, plug the barrel connector in there, and that's all the power you'll need for the operation. Also, the remote receivers have a metal enclosure, and they have fins on the top and the sides, again for cooling. You'll find holes on the side for the bracketing kits. You can mount these up off the ground and out of the way. That's a good suggestion because you don't want to get any kind of dirt, dust, or debris inside these ports. On the one end, you'll find a reset button right here. You can use that to reset the module if needed. This product provides audio extraction capabilities. I'll show you that connection in a minute, but you have a choice of using ARC audio or optical SPDIF, and you can use that switch to make your selection. Next to that is a LAN port. That's where the other end of the cable from the transmitter plugs in. Again, a Cat6, Cat7, plug it in right there and you're good to go. On the other end, you'll find a DC port right here that's used for power. Simply plug in the smaller power supply to a wall outlet, plug the barrel connector in there, and that's all the power you'll need for the module. To the right of that, you'll find an SPDIF connection. Again, depending on which audio selection you've made on the other side, if you want to use the optical connection for audio out, that's a port you'll use to connect it up to your stereo or your soundbar. The HDMI output port right here connects to the local monitor to allow you to enjoy the content being sent to that location. And then finally, 2 infrared blaster ports over here on the right. You'll use the infrared in port in the case of these receivers because you'll actually want to collect up the remote control signals at that location to be sent back to the primary location from the LAN connection between them. That's pretty much it for both of the modules. It's a very simple system to use and connections are really easy. The OREI UHD18-IPC230-K is compatible with most modern HDMI media sources, including computer systems, streaming devices, media players like Roku, DVD players, and game consoles. The product's features include full support of 4K ultra-high definition media content, distances up to 230 feet are supported between the primary and secondary location, it has advanced EDID control, up to 8 receivers are supported, and it provides both local loopback and IR pass-through capabilities. Now I'll show you the connections you'll need to make to use this product with your own equipment. And for this demonstration, over here I've set up a small media player that's currently looping a video on this monitor, and that's the media content that I'd like to distribute to my 8 remote locations. On either side of me, I've set up 4 monitors, and these represent 4 of those 8 remote locations. And these can be up to 230 feet away from the primary location. In front of me, I have the transmitter module here. This is located at the primary site, wherever you have the content today that you'd like to distribute to your remote locations. I also have 4 remote receivers, 1 for each of the monitors, and these are located at your 8 remote sites, wherever you'd like to enjoy the content from the primary site. Now the first set of connections I'll make are to the remote receivers, and I'll start by connecting the monitors and adding power. I've already connected HDMI cables up to the monitors, and I'll plug those directly into the HDMI output port on each of the receiver modules. There's 2, and I have 2 more over here. Now it's really important you use the best quality HDMI cable you can, because if you're distributing 4K content, you want to make sure you get a nice crisp picture at each of your remote locations. All right, so I've got all 4 of the HDMI cables plugged in, and now I can add power. I've already plugged in the power supplies. The other end of those cables are barrel connections, and they plug directly into the modules. I have 2 over here. Plug those into the DC input ports on the modules, and 2 more over here that plug into the DC ports on these 2 modules. Now the minute I add power to these modules, they immediately start an internal power on self-test where they're checking all the electronics to make sure the modules are working okay. They're also checking the resolution of the monitors that are connected to make whatever adjustments are needed to give you the best possible picture. And remember, these remote locations might have monitors with different resolutions and different frame rates, so the remote receivers are smart enough to make the adjustments needed to give you the best picture. Now we're all set to connect up the transmitter, and I'll start by connecting up my media source first. So I'll disconnect that from the monitor, plug that into the HDMI input port on the back of the transmitter, and now we can add power. I've already plugged that power supply in. Another barrel connection directly into the back. Now the minute I add power to the transmitter, it starts an internal power on self-test where it's checking all the electronics, again, to make sure everything's working okay. It's also checking the resolution of the media source, so when it negotiates with the remote receivers, it can send the right type of media out to those locations. Now we're all set to connect up the LAN connections because that's the only connection we're missing. So the cable between the transmitter and the receiver modules has to be a Cat6 or a Cat7. I've got 2 short Cat7s right here. I'll plug those into the LAN port on the receivers, and then port number 1 and number 2 on the transmitter. Now it's going to take a couple of seconds for the transmitter to realize that the remote receivers are connected. There's negotiations going on between these 2 modules. So it takes a couple of seconds when you first connect it up to distribute that content. I'll do the same over here. 2 more to the LAN ports. The other end of these connect up to the port 2 and port 3 on the transmitter. I'm sorry, 3 and 4 on the transmitter. And again, once I plug those in, They're going to have to negotiate with the transmitter module to figure out the best resolution possible for the monitors, because I do have different resolutions on these monitors. And when you add those monitors, you can see it blinked out a second. That's because the transmitter has to find a compromise to distribute that high resolution content to all 4 of those remote locations and give you the best possible picture. So it takes a couple of seconds for it to sync up, but there we go. There's all 4 of them right now. So you've got a single media source being distributed over a LAN cable, basically 230 feet away to remote locations. Now, one other key feature of this particular product is the local loopback functionality, which allows me to continue to enjoy the content here while I'm distributing it to those remote locations. And to use that feature, you'll need another HDMI cable, and you'll connect that up to the HDMI loop out port on the back of the transmitter, just like this, and plug it into a local monitor so you can view that content. I'll plug that in here. And what's happening now is it has to renegotiate because I plugged another monitor in, so it's going to take a second for it to make the adjustment to send the resolution you need out to your remote locations and the resolution of the local monitor, because this is 4K, some of these are 1080p. All right, so we're up with those and we're up with that one. So you can see this system is incredibly easy to use. It's really versatile too, because a single media source can be sent out to 8 remote locations and a local loopback function at the same time. And it really is just that simple to get it working. I hope you found this overview of the UHD18-IPC230-K HDMI extender and splitter kit helpful. It really does provide an incredibly easy way for you to share a single HDMI media source with 8 remote locations at the same time, located up to 230 feet away from the primary site in full 4K ultra high definition resolution over a single Cat6 or Cat7 LAN cable to each of these locations. And the fact that each of the remote receivers provides audio extraction capabilities means you can pass the audio being sent there to a soundbar or home stereo for better quality audio. You also have the choice between ARC audio and SPDIF optical for connecting to your audio equipment, which gives you a wide range of compatibility with your audio gear. The inclusion of the infrared blasters means you'll have complete control from each of those locations remotely of the content you're watching. Everything you need to get started is included with the kit, and with a few simple connections, you can be up and running in no time. So until next time, thanks for watching.